Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful tri-state area. Welcome to our 120th episode, 2.5 years on the air and still going very strong. I'm always excited to spend my time with you on the airwaves, and it's always a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. It truly does make it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And also remember that we're now live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are now streaming 24/7 on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV. Recently just hit 10 million views. And you can also find us on our YouTube channel at Zen Sams. We have such a great show lined up for you today. Very exciting stuff. And our PoliticGal segment brought to you by Bice Cucina. We're featuring Catalina Lauf, a passionate American, former Republican nominee, Defense of Freedom PAC advisor for Begin Health Kids, which is a kids' health startup. Now, today she's here to chat LGBTQ ideologies, how some of those ideologies are being pushed on children, and what Americans need to know about how Western Europe is protecting children from gender ideology and how they have taken things into their own hands. In our Digital World segment brought to you by Navé Travel, today we're featuring the amazing Chris Mattmann, Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at NASA. Today we're chatting all about AI, from how it can make space travel and exploration safer, to how it will revolutionize data threats and breaches, to even how it will reshape human interactions. In our Innovation and Tech segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames and OGPay.com, today we're featuring returning guest Lamia, Kamel, Egypt's top branding expert, founder of Mega Media Summit, which is Narrative Summit, and PR firm CC Plus News. She's joined by a regular contributor, Paul Caldwell, Chairman and CEO of Caldwell Soames, and today we're chatting about the mass adoption of digital payments across Egypt and its direct effect on American tourism abroad. In our Culinary and Wine segment brought to you by Bice Cucina, we're featuring our very own Jonathan Cinto, bringing us the latest with his summer recipe in under 5 minutes. Definitely check out that summer recipe of the week. Stay tuned for Catalina Lauf in our PoliticGal segment brought to you by Bice Cucina, proud American, passionate GOP Republican nominee, and a dear friend of the show's. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV.
Hi, this is Kathy Ireland here on A Moment of Zen, brought to you by Your Home TV. We've developed an all-inclusive subscription-free network that you're going to love, whether it's financial freedom, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, wonderful weddings, travel and culture, cooking, entertainment, and short-form documentaries, programming for everyone. Classic films and new shows, including Kathy Ireland Presents American Dreams. We've developed this network just for you. Please check out yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Coming up in our PoliticGal segment brought to you by Bice Cucina, we're featuring Catalina Lauf, a passionate American, former Republican nominee, Defense of Freedom PAC advisor at Begin Health, which is a kids' health startup. Now, Catalina was born and raised in Woodstock, Illinois, and is one of the youngest appointees to the executive branch, serving as a special advisor to the U.S. Department of Commerce. Parental and education rights have always been at the forefront of her campaigns. She promotes school choice and education for all, bullishly addresses the woke curriculum, pushback against critical race theory, and hypersexualization of our youth. Today, she's here to chat LGBTQ ideologies, how some of those ideologies are being pushed on children, and what Americans need to know about how Western Europe is protecting children from gender ideology. Welcoming now to the show is trailblazer Catalina Lauf. Welcome to the show, Stunner.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. So bear with me as I set the tone here, okay? So while Eastern Europe finally woke up and realized the damage and are now walking back and peeling back some of their laws, changing their care model for youth seeking assistance to change their gender. On the contrary, the United States is pushing forward with the very practices that have caused European officials to have grave concerns. Okay, so American public schools currently play a major role in convincing students that sex and gender are mutually exclusive, that children choose their gender, and that some children are born in the wrong body. Why should this matter to us? Well, okay, so let's go back. Bear with me a little bit more. Under the guise of the name gender affirming care, American schools are amping up support for children who identify as transgender. And this includes an overwhelming number of school districts and state departments of education implementing policies that exclude parents from a child's decision to live as the opposite sex at school. And in one extreme case, a school district worked with a gender clinic to transition children behind their parents' backs. What do you say to all of this? And how can we as parents reclaim our control?
You know, Zen, this is a huge issue happening in especially blue states. Coming from Illinois, you know, our governor had some of the most radical policies when it came to the transgender movement, if you will, in the public school system. He passed a state law saying that if, for example, little Jill wanted to be John at school, by state law, the teacher could not notify the parent. And so ultimately, you know, I think it's twofold. I think when it comes to, from a cultural perspective, they're always after our economic system in some way, right? This transgender movement has become a business. When you have these hospitals, when you have these legislatures pushing so much awareness and then subsequently money into it, we've got to follow that, the economic incentives for all of this is happening. Look at the surgeries, look at the hormone, everything from the health perspective is turning into a money game. But from a cultural perspective, it is destroying communities. It's destroying households. I've gone to so many school board meetings where parents are enraged at what is happening in the public schools. And the only way to defeat it is if you have enough parents that are pushing back and fighting against it from a grassroots perspective. And so I think that's the only way here. You know, parents need to use their voice. They need to show up at these school board meetings. They need to say, look, that what is happening is not acceptable. I don't want my 5-year-old learning different topics from a sexual perspective, but then also the transgender, switching genders, not knowing their gender. This should be, it should be outlawed, frankly,
It should be outlawed
from the public school system.
Yeah, it doesn't belong in the public school system, and pride is not for children. And one example of a lesson learned is England. UK's National Health Service found most youths identifying as trans are going through what they call a transient phase. And as a result, the National Institute of Health restricted gender transition treatments for children under 18, and restricting puberty blockers for minors to clinics controlled by medical doctors helps now ensure that the children receive holistic medical care, including psychiatric care, and that the medical side effects of puberty blockers are considered. And in 2022, the UK's National Health Service closed a clinic called Tavistock, and it's the world's largest pediatric gender clinic, due to poor evidence and its care model putting basically young people's mental health at risk. And the clinic is now facing a class action lawsuit from as many as 1,000 former parents and patients. So it's you're right, destroying communities and destroying households. Now, I'd love to get your perspective on this. A biology teacher at Newton North High School in Massachusetts was also in charge of their To Be Glad events back in April of this year. And teachers were invited to sign their classes up for 3 events. In the morning, there was a panel discussion on the intersectionality of religion and queerness. In the afternoon, there was an event about allyship, and after school, there was a performance and Q&A with a drag queen named Missy Steak. Now, if teachers chose to attend, there were no permission slips required from parents. Should this be allowed in schools?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What happened to just teaching basic reading, science, and math? Now all of these teachers are so woke. A lot of them are young millennial teachers that have been indoctrinated on their own in college and universities. And now they're putting that on little kids. And again, the only way to fight that is to look, these teachers should be fired. If you're going to be doing that in a school, they should be fired. And the parents have the voice and the power to be able to set the tone with that when it comes to school boards, when it comes to showing up and disagreeing. The problem is, unfortunately, what we have seen is that not enough parents will coalesce and create a movement to stop this. You know, it takes a lot. A lot of the time too, these parents don't even know what's going on from an after school or even from a curriculum. They should, but ultimately it comes down to the power of the parent, and more parents have to use that power.
You said it. And in recent years, critical gender theory activists have turned America's education system into a tool to reach millions of children in an effort to teach and promote gender ideology. Schools are now teaching students, including kindergartners, that gender is malleable and disconnected from one sex. I mean, this is total insanity. And more proof comes from France. France, they have something called Académie Nationale de Médecine. It's a medicine research organization, and they issued a report in February of last year urging medical professionals to use great medical caution, and that was a quote, when treating transgender children. And the report emphasized that the medical supply for gender transition treatments has met the demand, which they call an epidemic-like phenomenon, and that children must receive now psychiatric care before any hormonal or surgical intervention. So what's happening now, Catalina, is many European countries, including the United Kingdom, Sweden, France, and Finland, are taking a more cautious approach to medically treating minor children with gender dysphoria. But what are we doing here in the US? We're feeding right into it.
Yeah, and it all comes down to, look, you have so many woke politicians that rely so much on the teachers unions to fund them, to help them out. And so it's all this ecosystem of wokeness, if you will, that ultimately the only way it can be stopped is if people come together and actually fundamentally say enough is enough. You know, we have feminine hygiene products in elementary school boys' bathrooms. It's just turning into, it is being pushed so much, and it's in these kids' faces.
And you have to wonder why, right? Like our New York Attorney General, Letitia James, hosted a drag story hour, okay, for children in Manhattan. This was back in March, and the event sparked outrage. Like, I mean, people were mad because this was over the use of taxpayer money for such a controversial event. And it was co-sponsored by Drag Story Hour NYC, which is a nonprofit showered again in taxpayer funds. And it enabled them to send drag performers into public schools and libraries to interact with children as young as 3 years old. And Letitia said that her office was proud to host a Drag Story Hour readathon. She promoted the event on her IG. She invited families to join her, the drag storytellers, the community leaders, elected officials. I mean, Catalina, this must be part of a much bigger picture. Do you feel that this woke curriculum is fueled by mind and government control? I mean, what's happening?
You know, it relates back to rules for radicals. You know, a lot of this Marxism. This is Marxism, and it's not something that should be taken lightly. They isolate an issue, especially something like a social issue, and they just berate it in your face over and over again until they try to create a movement that way. They believe that so many millennials and so many woke parents, if you will, if there's enough of them to support a cause like this, that they actually can change the rules and then ultimately have complete control. And that's what they do. You know, it used to be the whole climate change situation, you know, 15, 20 years ago. And all they do is isolate a social issue. They try to create a movement. But the best part about all of this, the silver lining, if you will, I think, is that it has awakened so many people who are normal Americans who look at this stuff on both sides of the aisle, and they're just like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's actually unifying. Yeah. Studies have shown that this cultural wokeism is actually unifying more Americans.
Yeah, because the crazier they look, the saner we look. Now, you want to chat crazy? We have about 4 minutes left. Let's chat chest feeding. Okay. Now, it's a thing. Chest feeding. In another section of the CDC's breastfeeding guidance called the Infant and Young Child Feeding Toolkit, the CDC says that transgender and non-binary gendered individuals may give birth and breastfeed or feed at the chest, which is called chest feeding. And an individual doesn't need to have given birth to breastfeed or chest feed. Apparently, in sections of the CDC's guidance on breastfeeding, it contained information for those who have had much of their breasts removed in gender reassignment surgeries, or for biological men taking hormones to grow breasts, and how to feed their newborn children. But however, listen to this. Several doctors have criticized the guidance, not simply because the CDC has appeared to guide biological men on how to breastfeed children, which is completely ridiculous, but because they claim the CDC has failed to gauge the risks posed to the children drinking milk produced by basically chemicals used in gender reassignment medical operation. What in God's green earth is happening? Chest feeding, Catalina.
They tell us to follow the science. This is just, my question is, why is the CDC and government officials and this administration so focused on 0.06% of a population? Why do they hone in on highlighting issues like this? And what's so sad is that there are so many women, biological females out there, that have trouble breastfeeding. They have trouble with the entire process from pregnancy, even getting pregnant. And here we are highlighting the CDC, the government, Democrats are sitting here highlighting 0.06% of a population. Why? I mean, talk about read the room on some of these issues.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, listen, we're almost out of time, but I want to know what's next for you very quickly before we log off here. But more importantly, to your point, the FDA issued a warning that one of these drugs called domperidone can pass into breast milk and can sometimes give babies an irregular heartbeat as a result. So giving infants chest milk laced with chemicals used in gender reassignment medical operations is not, recommended. And the CDC has failed to mention the health risk posed to these infants chest feeding from these biological men transitioning. So this is completely, we're talking off the hook, ridiculous stuff. And you're right. They chose to hone in on something so minute for a population that shouldn't even matter right now, and really kind of stress the entire society with it. It's ridiculous.
They also
Tell me,
don't want to go against big pharma. Look, they don't want to go against the money bags who are pushing some of these, again, hormones or some of these pharmaceutical industry in general. They don't want to go against that. Why? Because they're the biggest supporters of the Democrats.
You're right. You said it. There you go. That's an entirely different conversation, because there's so many conspiracy theories, but that are actually fact that we could tie into this for the bigger picture that you just hit on one of them. And you're right. It's all about control. Now, what's next for you?
Right now, I'm focusing on helping other candidates, both on the Senate side and congressional side. So we have a few, the Defense of Freedom PAC is a PAC that I've launched to help these freedom-loving, individual liberty, economic, free market enterprise economic system, people who are really passionate about our founding values. I help support them. They need the support all across the country. And then also on the business side, my sister and I have a startup in the health and wellness space to help kids who are suffering from constipation and things like gut microbiome issues. A lot of that comes from the early stages, like we were talking about, breastfeeding stages, and in toddlers. Unfortunately, we have a huge issue with the gut microbiome as a whole. My sister and I are disrupting that space and helping individuals take that their own health and wellness in their own hands, and to not be reliant. We're focusing more on preventative than just putting a Band-Aid over something. So really passionate about that as well. So have my hands in a couple little things, but ultimately I just love this country so much. I'm incredibly passionate about changing things, changing the woke culture, and just restoring sanity in our country. And I hope to be a small voice in helping that.
Well, you sure are, and you've done your part so far. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Guys, do check her out. She's incredible. That was our PoliticGal segment brought to you by Bice Cucina, featuring the incredible, the beautiful, the super talented Catalina Lauf, a passionate American, former Republican nominee. And of course, you can check her out directly on the gram at Catalina Lauf. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Navé, a members-only travel portal exclusively available through Organo, offering members steep discounts on nightly or weekly hotel stays, cruises, auto rentals, excursions, and so much more. With its travel getaway portal, Navé makes the days of surfing multiple travel sites and spending hours evaluating the best deals done with. That's because with Navé, you are guaranteed the best prices. Plus, to gain access to an even more expansive collection of condos, hotels, cruises, vacation villas, fantasy getaways, and concierge service, there's Forever Weeks. Simply purchase a Navé Forever Weeks package one time and enjoy the benefits many times. With Forever Weeks, forever means forever. Not only does Navé guarantee you the best prices, but it is also one of the few travel portals that pays a referral bonus, in addition to you earning rewards points, which can be redeemed on the Travel Getaway portal for further discounted hotel room rates. Become a member today and navigate the world of travel. Navé, the world for you to experience. For more information, go to nave.travel. That's Navé, Nave.travel.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Digital World segment brought to you by Navé Travel, today we're featuring Chris Mattmann, Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at NASA and in the aerospace industry in general. His work has helped explore space and helped journalists and governments track international financial crime amongst the world's elite. Today, we're chatting all about artificial intelligence, from how it can make space travel and exploration safer, to how it will revolutionize data threats and breaches, to even how it will reshape human interactions. Space travel, exploration, and observation involve some of the most complex and dangerous scientific and technical operations ever carried out. This means that it tends to throw up the kinds of problems that AI is proving itself to be outstandingly helpful with. Within the last decade, AI has revolutionized industries such as healthcare with image analysis and disease diagnosis, to customer service with 24/7 support, and to retail with demand forecasting and inventory management. In relation to space exploration, by automating spacecraft operations, AI systems can autonomously navigate, avoid obstacles, and optimize mission efficiency, ultimately enhancing the success and safety of space missions. With AI as a trusted ally, the possibilities for exploration and unraveling the mysteries of the cosmos are boundless. Here to chat further is my expert at hand, Chris Mattmann. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Hey, Zen. Thanks for having me. Really happy to be here. And hey, everyone out there in the audience.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. So, in what ways can AI technologies help mitigate risks and hazards, what we call during space missions? And what specific applications of AI can be utilized to improve astronaut safety?
Yeah, so Zen, a lot of the risks that we have in space missions are due to things like anomaly detections. There's an error with the instrument, or the power has gone lower than it needs to, or it's gone below a threshold. These are repetitive tasks, and humans like you and I and others get tired of checking the same things over and over again. But computers don't, and in particular, AI doesn't either. AI is like a superpowered set of many, many humans that's really good at pattern detection, pattern matching, and things like that. And so related to spacecraft health, instrument health, things like that, what the AI can do is it can do repetitive tasks a lot faster than us. And so you typically hear words like robotic process automation, anomaly detection, so on and so forth, health. So AI is being deployed in those types of environments. And then AI is also giving us a kind of broader understanding of some of the science that's coming back from these instruments as well. So, like you talked about in your intro, image analysis, data analysis, and things like that. And so AI is really being kind of like a robotic intelligent assistant to help us there.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, when you read all of these science journals, I mean, a ton of advancements, autonomous operations, efficient communication between astronauts, and detection, as you said, of any environmental issues are always in which AI brings efficiency to space systems. For example, I was reading Simon, Crew Interactive Mobile Companion, developed by Airbus and IBM, is an 11-pound robot equipped with facial recognition technology that can converse with the astronauts and recognize who it's talking to. It's fascinating. So yes, I mean, so much application, which brings me to let's chat application. How can the collaboration between AI experts such as yourself and space agencies such as NASA enhance space exploration? And what are some of the incredible ways that AI is currently being used in space travel?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way it can enhance, collaboration is you could imagine that AI today replicates at human or better level many of the human senses. In fact, it's biologically inspired. In 2012, there was a model called AlexNet, and you might have heard in the news recently, Geoffrey Hinton, left Google, in a TIS, basically saying, "Hey, AI is going to be the biggest threat," and to advocate outside of Google, kind of against AI. And one of the things with that is his student Alex was the developer of AlexNet, which was this model that replicates the ways that our eye works. In 2014, Baidu pushed out the deep speech model, which is the foundation of modern, and I hope I don't set anyone's off here, that A word from Amazon that I won't say, but Google Home and things like that for
Yeah.
intelligent assistance. It's an ear. It hears sound and it turns it into text. 2018, BERT from Google, which is the foundation of ChatGPT, which is language to language interaction. So we've got eyes, we've got ears, we've got language to language interaction. Imagine all of the applications for that, like you said, for astronauts in space, for crews, for all sorts of interactions, for seeing things, for hearing things, for being able to command and control without typing. Obviously, that's not so easy in a spacesuit, and things like that. So those are all the ways now that we have AI senses that it can be helping.
Interesting, because there's so many incredible ways AI is being used, especially when you talk about, predictive maintenance, star and galaxy mapping. That was an interesting one for me, or planetary geology, what they call astrogeology, rocket landing. So it's funny. I used to have a segment called "Fly Me to the Moon," and I would speak to astronauts and we would feature them. And rocket landing was something that I was always talking about. I was obsessed with this one. So SpaceX has been improving and refining how rockets operate, and they use AI to monitor and analyze data from the rocket sensors and telemetry systems, allowing for better decision making and more precise control of the rocket's trajectory and speed. And in fact, SpaceX, and this is not a plug for SpaceX, it's just interesting for their technology, they also use AI to automate certain aspects of the rocket landing procedure, such as controlling the engines and landing gear and making sure the rocket is in the optimal position to land. So, yeah, I mean, like, where are you going without these robots, right? Let's chat data. So now, interestingly, you are best known for a 23-year career inventing the most downloaded software on the planet, creating technology that powers all the data systems in the industry. Tika, the digital Babelfish, is the key technology that solved the Panama Papers and won the Pulitzer Prize in Journalism in 2017. Congratulations, you are a superstar for that alone. And for those, I'm going to just put this out there listening, that the Panama Papers are 11.5 million leaked documents that were published in April of 2016. And the papers detailed financial and attorney-client information from more than 250,000 offshore entities. Now, Chris, what drove you to this invention? And now looking back with AI at hand, in your opinion, how will it really revolutionize and detect threats and data breaches more efficiently without compromise? I mean, you did this by yourself.
Yeah, Zen, I really appreciate the question. And I joke about the Panama Papers. That's where we figured out Hermione Granger was storing her money in offshore accounts, amongst other things. But, Emma Watson was one of the people caught up in that. So at NASA, at other places, I've been the data guy. I used to call myself a data plumber. And a lot of it is managing big data. Sensors are bigger now. They take more data, other things like that. And so managing and processing and turning data into knowledge is a foundation really of AI. And not everyone sort of understands that. But basically, the simple way to explain it is that AI expects data to look like Excel sheets. It expects data to look like columns and rows, in which the columns are things we want to observe, and the rows are different samples of those columns. However, the world doesn't look that way. the world is messy. It's audio, it's images, it's video, it's all sorts, it's Word documents, PowerPoints, it's all sorts of, it's email. It's all sorts of heterogeneous data. And so the foundation of TICA and all of this work I did on the Panama Papers and all of these things before was to take that unstructured, ugly world and turn it into structured, almost Excel sheets. And so, you know, you heard about Andrew Yang talk about this in the 2020 presidential campaign. He talked about data as the new oil. And the implication for that, you know, oil is useful, right? Because we refine it into gasoline, which powers our cars and, you know, powers all sorts of things. But that refinement process is the IP, it's the intellectual property for BP, Chevron, everywhere else. And so that's the type of work that I've been working on, is that refinement process to take unstructured world, turn it into structured knowledge.
I love it. Now, when you look at the bigger picture, like micro versus macro, I mean, AI can monitor data access and use, like you said, patterns, identify unusual patterns that may indicate a data breach, and alert data managers, right? It can also suggest measures to mitigate the breach, such as blocking unauthorized access and encrypting sensitive data, or strengthening these access controls. But this brings me to, let's chat privacy, right? So AI systems often rely on collecting and analyzing vast amounts of personal data, which raises concerns about privacy, and the potential misuse or unauthorized access to this data can result in significant breaches of privacy and personal security. What do you say to this?
I mean, it's true. What I say is, you know, you don't have to look anywhere else but the news to see, you know, there are governments, especially some of our foreign adversaries, including China and other places, that literally have no problem putting facial recognition out there, using it on their citizens and everywhere. And there are no ethical sort of guidelines related to that. And so one of the things I say is that we need to continue developing AI ethics. The West and the US could be a leader, you know, in this. Europe has the AI Act, in which they're starting to put out some of these AI ethics guidelines related to bias in the training data. Obviously, the early smart cars, one of the challenges with them, they had never seen a handicapped person or someone in a wheelchair, or they had never seen a person of color. So we don't want training data that doesn't reflect our population, number one. So bias in the training data. The second thing is, when these AIs make predictions, we want to know the confidence in them. We don't want to just know it's going to rain tomorrow or it's going to be sunny. We want to know the confidence behind that, because one of the challenges is when it doesn't rain tomorrow, what they never told you is that it was only 15% confident it was going to rain. And that was the best option amongst all the other options beside it, which were even less than 15%, which isn't really confident. And then finally, we need to help people. A lot of people are worried about their jobs related to AI. You know, are they going to displace and all of that? Well, hey, you know, I live out here in Pasadena. The 110 freeway was built in the early 1950s, 1940s for roads and beltways, right? It's the craziest freeway in the world. It was not built to go 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
However, it was built in the horses and buggy time, right? Post that. And so we had all this upskilling, you know, that was done, that had to be done to take the folks who weren't building horses and buggies anymore and were building cars. The same thing needs to happen with AI. We need to provide upskilling and soft landings for all of our people.
You know, unemployment and job displacement is a big one, because the automation capabilities of AI may just result in job displacement, to your point, and significant changes in the job market are going to occur. So this raises concerns about the impact on individuals' livelihoods, on income inequality, and the need for retraining and reskilling programs. So, you know, lack of transparency is also one, because AI algorithms can be complex and opaque, making it challenging to understand how they make decisions or even reach conclusions. So this lack of transparency can undermine accountability and raise concerns about potential biases, to your point, or unethical practices embedded in the very algorithm. So that's a key one to really look out for. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Now, we have about 2 minutes left before I cut to a commercial break, but one of the other interesting questions was, are there any specific industries or sectors where AI has shown significant impact in revolutionizing data threat and breach prevention? We have about a minute left.
Yeah. I think that there's a couple. I think related to ransomware, AI, and especially cybersecurity threats across hospitals and things like that. I think AI will be a very powerful tool, because it's already going through everyone's, you know, passwords and things like that. And this is what's telling us in the cybersecurity world, hey, you know, we need updated password requirements and guidelines. We need to reduce access to these particular networks and things like that. So AI is really poised to make a big contribution there to, you know, protect against these cyber ransomware types of things that are getting in, infecting people's networks, and especially in very critical environments like hospitals and other places like that. And schools. LAUSD had a huge cyber ransom hack last November, and AI has the potential to help mitigate that.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the one thing I am going to say is with everything advancing so fast, the psychological impacts are exactly what we should be focusing on too, separate of, I segued here because I want to make sure that people who are listening right now are going to continue on to our extended segment on our YouTube channel, because we do only have him for 15 minutes here live on the radio. But one of the next questions in our extended segment is going to be, with AI advancing so fast, what are these psychological impacts? And I'm going to leave everybody with saying that AI systems designed to interact with humans, such as chatbots or virtual companions, may have psychological impacts on individuals, blurring the line between human and machine relationships. So it's essential to consider the potential consequences on mental well-being and emotional attachment, because social isolation is going to become a thing. And the increasing use of AI-powered tech, such as virtual assistants and social robots, is going to lead to reduced human-to-human interaction and potentially contribute to social isolation and loneliness. And that is something that we are going to talk about in the extended segment, along with exclusive behind the scenes. Thank you so much for coming on, my dear friend Chris. It was amazing chatting with you.
Zen, it was a pleasure. Come on anytime again. Hope everyone's having a great rest of their day.
That was My Digital World segment, brought to you by Navé Travel. That was the awesome Chris Mattmann, Chief Technology Officer and Innovation Officer in the aerospace industry and at NASA. You can check him out directly on his website at mattmann.ai, or you can check him out all over social media at Chris Mattmann. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Navé, a members-only travel portal exclusively available through Organo, offering members steep discounts on nightly or weekly hotel stays, cruises, auto rentals, excursions, and so much more. With its travel getaway portal, Navé makes the days of surfing multiple travel sites and spending hours evaluating the best deals done with. That's because with Navé, you are guaranteed the best prices. Plus, to gain access to an even more expansive collection of condos, hotels, cruises, vacation villas, fantasy getaways, and concierge service, there's Forever Weeks. Simply purchase a Navé Forever Weeks package one time and enjoy the benefits many times. With Forever Weeks, forever means forever. Not only does Navé guarantee you the best prices, but it is also one of the few travel portals that pays a referral bonus, in addition to you earning rewards points, which can be redeemed on the Travel Getaway portal for further discounted hotel room rates. Become a member today and navigate the world of travel. Navé, the world for you to experience. For more information, go to nave.travel. That's Navé, Nave.travel.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcoming back to the show is my awesome friend, Chris Mattmann. Welcome back, my friend.
Hey, how's it going, Zen? Nice to be back.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's chat. So, psychological impacts here. So, as the question was stated, where do you feel we are headed with the lines that will eventually become blurred between human and robots?
Look, the pandemic pushed everyone to home, and that wasn't just for millennials. It made us all cord cutters. It made us all gamers at home. It reduced our human-to-human contact. And sort of in this post-world now where we have these amazing intelligent assistants, the chat GPTs, the generative AIs that are building images of all of our thoughts and things like that, it's just pushing us increasingly to become ever so digital. And obviously on the other end, we're not sure whether we're talking to a human or not. And that could be a very big issue, because what AI doesn't sort of provide for us is that sort of human connection. Sure, it can answer all of our questions and our problems and things like that, but it's not someone we can see in the real world. It's not someone we can hang out with. It's not someone that gives us those things that are kind of uniquely human to us. So first, I think it will cause people to become more isolated, and that's a challenge. And we have to rectify that. They talk about people getting out and touching grass. It's a social media meme nowadays, but I would encourage anyone who has a tech job working with AI to go touch more grass.
Go touch the grass.
Go touch the grass, right?
So what steps can be taken to ensure that AI technologies complement and enhance human interactions rather than replace or hinder them?
Well, we have to know it's an AI that we're talking to. And right now we don't. I mean, the verification system. So a lot of people were, hard on Elon because, he made paid verification systems. What not a lot of people know there for Twitter is the reason he did that is he's trying to filter out the bots. The bots are too good nowadays to kind of understand that. And funny enough, later on, Zuckerberg did the exact same thing with Meta, right? They started, charging for verification and things like that. Part of that was bot detection. And so what we really need to know is what are bots and what aren't. And so again, this goes back to AI ethics. We need declarations of when we're dealing with, when we're talking to AI, and when AI generates content. And this is going to factor heavily into Hollywood, SAG-AFTRA, all the other, the actors, the writers' strikes, the, forthcoming things. It factors into that because, again, that has to do with AI, IP, who's generating what. Right now, the studios don't want people to know because they want to pay less because AI costs them less. And that's the issues related to that. So
amazing. Chris, I think I just found my co-host to interview Sophia. She appeared on Jimmy Kimmel, right? Sophia.
No,
Sophia the robot appeared on Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And guess who's talking to have her on the show?
You.
And I'm like, what am I going to ask her? I'm like, are you going to replace my job in Hollywood? Like, what am I telling this robot? But yes, no, I would love to embrace her because I don't want to piss her off.
It's a good idea. Good idea.
But the topic of conversation there is, where are we headed in Hollywood? Are we now going to be employing actual robots and their handlers? Because now you could just program the script, you can make them part of it. Where this is going is that next level of craziness that we never thought could happen in our industry. But to your point, this is the underlying theme for the SAG strike right now. It's all about AI. It's all about where this is headed with the streamers and rights and making sure that likeness is afforded properly to the person that is the artist at hand, right? So it's definitely something that we need to be talking about.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in LA. I had 2 cinema majors at USC as my roommates. Productions, critical studies, have been in and around the industry for a while and consider myself a creative myself. Not a lot of people understand the creative process. Everything from storyboarding. It's not just writing. It's storyboarding. It's making stills, all these things. There's more than holding a light, besides acting. And so all of that work is subject potentially to automation, is subject to AI. And this is a big challenge. We need to reward and compensate. Relates to upskilling, like you and I talked about. It's not just upskilling, it's soft landings for people,
Yeah. Well, listen, we've had such a great conversation. We talked about space travel. We talked about data breaching. We talked about human interaction, Hollywood. I mean, this could go on forever. You should just come on regularly because you are just amazing.
At your service whenever you need me.
Oh, I love that. Oh, yeah. At my service. Well, okay. Well, listen, I'm going to be calling you now for every little thing. Chris, what's your opinion on this one? Chris, what's your opinion on that one? I always like to get professional experts on the show or send you articles and get your opinion on them.
I'll be ready for it.
All right. There you go. Thank you so much for coming on. It was incredibly rewarding chatting with you this morning.
Thanks so much, Zen.
That was My Digital World segment brought to you by Navé Travel. That was the awesome Chris Mattmann, Chief Technology Officer and Innovation Officer in the aerospace industry and at NASA. You can check him out directly on his website at mattmann.ai, or you can check him out all over social media at Chris Mattmann. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out OGPay.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes, we have our innovation and tech segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames and OGPay.com. And today we're featuring Lamia Kamel, Egypt's top branding expert, founder of the Mega Narrative Summit, and the PR firm CC Plus News. Impressively, she's also the founder of Flair Magazine Egypt. Today, she's joined by our regular contributor, Paul Caldwell, chairman and CEO of Caldwell Soames. And today, we're chatting about the mass adoption of digital payments across Egypt and the Middle East and its direct effect on American tourism. Now, in a recent reference in Business Monthly, the journal of the American Chamber of Commerce in Egypt, in the region, digital payments are booming. MasterCard's new payment index flagship statistic is that in 2021, 88% of Egyptian consumers have used at least one emerging payment method. Meanwhile, 15% indicated they used less cash. The bottom line is that understanding international digital payment trends is essential for local players to capitalize on the country's dynamic, young, tech-savvy consumers. Egypt is a fertile ground for all that is innovation and digital. Consumers in Egypt are adopting different payment options and discovering more of the digital economy's benefits. Adam Jones, who is MasterCard's country general manager, said Egypt received 11.7 million tourists in 2022, and that was up from 8 million back in 2021, marking a 46% increase. Now, Egypt's tourism revenues jumped by close to 26% during the second half of 2022 to a record of $7.3 billion. Now, according to recent data published by the Central Bank of Egypt, these numbers are only going to be increasing. Welcoming now to the show are my experts at hand, Lamia, Kamel, and Paul Caldwell. Welcome, my friends.
Hi, Zen.
Hello. Hello, Zen. Hello, Paul.
Lamia, let's start with you. So let's chat digital payments, Lamia. When it comes to lucrative investments, the opportunities across all parts of Egypt's digital economy are essentially undeniable. The Ministry of Communication and Information Technology said on its website, objectives entail developing the ICT, which is the Information and Communications Technology infrastructure, fostering digital inclusion, achieving the transition to a knowledge-based economy, fighting corruption, ensuring cybersecurity, and promoting Egypt's position at the regional and international levels. They seem to be really promoting the digital economy. Tell me, Lamia, how has the mass adoption of digital payments across Egypt and the Middle East impacted the tourism industry in your country?
Well, first, your recognition of the penetration rates of digital transformation in Egypt is pretty accurate. There has been this adoption by the government and their commitment to ensuring that a big part of attracting investment and growing the economy is through digitizing this economy and ensuring that payments are done with high security and digitally and with high amount of speed and trust. And while doing so, I'd like to share with you that 64% of Egyptians in 2022, through record reports, 64% of Egyptians have increased their digital usage and their payment solutions to be able to do more of those transactions digitally. And we expect, in a population of 120 million people, we expect that by the year 2025, which is coming up very soon in 2 years, we will have around 59 million people adopting e-payments and digital payment solutions. So there is this huge transformation. There's this huge speed, and it started off before COVID, but COVID really, really impacted our need for this and created this whole space for us to adopt these new technologies. I would also like to tell you that the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities have adopted these payments in the pyramids, at the Citadel, at the museum, the National Museum in Tahrir, which is the biggest museum currently before the Grand Egyptian Museum. Once the Grand Egyptian Museum is opened, also the payment solutions is going to be intact over there. And also in the Upper Egypt, where most of the archaeological sites are happening in Luxor and Aswan. Also, 4 or 5 of those sites have adopted digital solutions. The U.S. tourism, the U.S. tourists come as the number between 5 and 10 top nationalities of our inbound tourism. And
it's
knowing
interesting
that,
because when you go back, and I want to touch on this and just go to piggyback off something that I'm going to ask Paul, but to your point, an indispensable part of any digital economy is the ability to securely and conveniently process payments. And given the key role digitalization plays in the financial lives of more and more of the world's population, electronic payments are at the epicenter of this transformation. And so for travel, and especially for Egypt, this is essential. Now I'm going to sway back to Paul here. Paul, welcome back, my friend.
Glad to be here, Zen.
So this is exactly right up your alley, this conversation. So MasterCard, Paul, said nearly 35% of those using digital payments used tappable smartphone mobile wallets, 27% a digital money transfer app, and 24%, interestingly enough, QR codes. The rest of the population make payments via left field channels such as social media apps. So adoption of a broader range of digital payment methods is accelerating, in fact, in Egypt, and the technology fueling the future of payments is basically already there. To Lamia's point, consumers in Egypt are increasingly and actively using these solutions. In Egypt, Gen Z and millennials are less likely to make in-person purchases and payments. And this is really based off directly this MasterCard report, and they're proactively seeking new payment methods, with Paul, 40% of Gen Z and millennials likely to have obtained a new touch-free payment method compared to the older Gen X. So cash is becoming obsolete for the first time ever in Egyptian culture. Does this surprise you? And what do you have to say to this?
No, I think it's it's less of an innovation at this point, because that's kind of baked into everything. And it's less of a disruptor as well, because it's already there, and it's not really disrupting. I think where the big change is in the transformation of how people think about how they use their money in different ways. I mean, you can be online and you can pay for things and touchless and all of that and whatever, but you cannot eat dinner over the computer. I mean, it just can't feed you. You have to still go to a restaurant or buy some food at the grocery or whatever. Make the food, or someone has to make it for you. So there's still this in-person component to this. I just see it everywhere. In our fund, we're looking at Middle East, North Africa. We call it our MENA strategy. We're in acquisition mode right now for fintech companies. We've acquired a company that has a lot of North Africa presence and Africa presence with the World Bank. The requirements here are really specific, because there are certain things around what is called origination. There are certain things around the transactions, the type of the transactions. And then there's all kinds of cross-border commerce that goes on. If you looked at the number of people that are carrying a Visa card from the United States or Europe or whatever, they go to Egypt and they use that card, and then they have to have foreign transaction fees. Digital can do away with foreign transaction fees. So fee-based income on the vendor side, on the merchant side, on the MasterCard, Visa, everybody is shifting. It's transforming. It's in the back office. It's different than it used to be. So where I see the convergence and the transformation, I should say, is in the convergence of apps like the OGPay app that you're familiar with, Zen, that actually has the QR codes, the wallet-to-wallet payments that's off the rail. So you can have both closed loop and open loop systems operating within one environment. So you still have your cards, can still do your card processing and your merchant services and so forth, but you can also have wallet-to-wallet, so that if I was here and my parents were in Egypt and I wanted to send them some money, I could just do it wallet to wallet for free, no cost. And that's a transformation for people that may otherwise have been going to like a Western Union or something and sending that money when they get their paycheck and have to pay a fee for that. When they can send that money and it's free, and then those people can use that money straight away, it transforms how people think about how they use their money.
That's amazing. And OGPay is a super app as we know it, because it's multilingual, multi-currency, multi-use, multifunctional. It's very integrated, very safe, FDIC insured. I mean, that's why I proudly endorse and back it. Lamia, the Egyptian government took numerous measures to stimulate the travel sector, including deciding back in January to allow 180 nationalities to obtain tourist visas on arrival to Egypt. Of course, there's a little bit of caveats to that, but in general, that was the point. And the Ministry of Transport also launched in September its first ever online platform to regulate the entry of yacht trips into the country as part of a newly developed strategy to leverage the country's unique strategical geographic location and long coastal lines, of course. Now, Have there been any challenges or barriers to the mass adoption of digital payments in the tourism sector? And if so, how are they being addressed? I mean, what are Egypt's biggest challenges at the moment meeting tourist demands and satisfaction?
As the general challenges of tourism, which is basically ensuring that the traveler has the right experience while he's at the country. So although Egypt has this massive archaeological sites between Cairo, between Giza, the pyramids, and in the beach areas in Upper Egypt, where all the archaeological sites of the in Luxor and in the temples. But still, the tourists wouldn't just come to see the archaeological sites or just to be at the beach. They want an overall experience. They want to be able to walk freely. They want to be able to have trust in the system. They want to be able to rely on their payment methods, that they're not going to be ripped off, that they're not going to be cheated on anything, that they're going to get the right service, that they're going to get the right products. And according to research, for example, we noted that most travelers and tourists are looking for e-payments for shopping purposes, for restaurants, and for bookings. These are the major transactions that are happening online when it comes to tourism. So you want to make sure that first, that they trust the method, that they go to the right shopping place to buy what they're looking for, and that whatever restaurant that they go to enjoy their experience overall, is that they are able to make those payments, because these are the locations where tourists want to exercise freedom. They want to exercise.
And promoting tourism has gained further urgency now more than ever in Egypt because of the global economic crisis that we were faced not long ago, which has put pressure on the local currency and caused Egypt to face an actual shortage in foreign currency. So right now, travel is essential. Paul, we have about 2 minutes left, and then we're going to cut to a commercial break for extended segment. For those that you're going to want to listen to more expert talk, you're going to have to tune into our YouTube channel. But Paul, the PwC report stressed that behind the scenes processing, the plumbing of payments is changing as consumers reduce their use of cards and traditional accounts in favor of what we've been talking about, these digital wallets and smartphone apps. And the document attributed the transition to regulators forcing the industry to strengthen or build up domestic infrastructure for payments. And that entices digital payment providers to outsource their infrastructure to cloud developers. This very survey accompanying the report found 80% of financial services organizations expect to have outsourced such infrastructures by the year 2025, which is just around the corner. That makes the interoperability of e-wallets among local and overseas banks and non-bank operators essential, but not easy to achieve. What is the resolution here with interoperability?
Well, interoperability is a function of necessity. It's kind of like necessity drives invention, is a saying, right? I think that it also, for tourism, Zen is still a good example if we stay on tourism. There needs to be other tech-based, fintech-based solutions operating in a market. An example might be the public transportation system, for example, in a country. If that was enabled to where you just could scan your phone when you step on the bus and it automatically paid it, or it scanned a code and it paid it from your wallet to your wallet, completely bypassing all the Visa, MasterCard, all the credit card rails, and just was a wallet-to-wallet transaction with the city and the consumer. That bus, the city owns the bus, the consumer gets on the bus, scans it, and there's no fees whatsoever. The city doesn't have to pay a merchant processing fee to MasterCard or Visa in that regard. They simply just do the transaction with their customer, which is the bus rider. Now, that same technology is the technology that would be operating in the tourist sector, at the hotels, at the vendors, little QR codes on the little kiosks of the lady that makes the little gadgets or the blankets. And you can just scan it and boom, you pay her. She's happy. She doesn't have to pay all those fees.
She would be so happy.
She doesn't have to pay those fees. It's 2%, 2.9, 1.5 card present, these kinds of things. So this is why you see the big card merchant processing companies like Fiserv, for example, and you see the Visas and the MasterCards of the world. You're seeing major shifts. Union Pay, you're seeing shifts. You're seeing movement around Alipay around the world, more deeply integrated everywhere. China has the Bridge and Roads, the BRI initiative going on. You see that they're bringing their companies in there as part of those solutions for collecting tolls and things like that on those bridges and those roads. So there's a ton going on behind the scenes. I completely agree with the PwC conclusions. I'm familiar with the report you're referencing. I just think it's going to get faster and faster, but I think it all comes down to success is rooted in being able to transform how people think about how they do something that matters to them.
I love it. When are you writing your book?
If you can do that, then I think you have something really great to talk about.
You are incredible. I love your commentary. Don't move a muscle, guys. I'm going to cut to a commercial break. You definitely have to check out Paul Caldwell and Lamia Kamel. You can go directly on Lamia's website. You can go to at Narrative Summit on the web, at CC Plus News, at Flair Magazine. You can go directly to cc-plus.com. And again, OGPay.com for all your fintech needs. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. Don't move a muscle. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out OGPay.com.
Welcome back, beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcoming back to our innovation and tech segment is the incredible Lamia Kamel and our dear friend and returning contributor, Paul Caldwell. Welcome back, my friends.
Hi, Zen.
Hi, Zen again.
Okay, so we just ended a question about what the resolution here was. Paul answered it very eloquently. And to piggyback off of what you were just saying, Paul, and again, this is our extended segment. You can check us out on our YouTube channel directly on all OTT and OTA platforms. But to address what you were just talking about, it left me thinking that like central banks acknowledge, of course, this notable shift away from conventional banking and are developing their own versions of instant online payment apps, to your point. And in addition to, I was reading Egypt's InstaPay app, the Federal Reserve created FedNow, which is a kind of like the next hybrid, next generation of InstaPay. But it was interesting that's where we're headed right now with wallet to wallet. Now, I have a combo question for both of you. So Lamia, we'll start with you. So the next step for digital payment solutions is to use artificial intelligence to process transactions. And those systems would likely be in the industrial, farming, wholesale trade, and construction sectors first. Webster of Market Platform Dynamics noted such payment platforms would be used primarily to sort of quote unquote digitize interactions with consumers and allow businesses to automate their payable and receivable processes. Lamia, are there any plans to expand digital payment options beyond traditional methods such as mobile wallets or contactless payments, leveraging artificial intelligence to further enhance the tourist experience in Egypt that you know of?
In 2022, I was pleasantly surprised when I heard that for every 100,000 people, 46,000 people had wallets. And the penetration rate is increasing to 67% in 2021 and expected to go beyond up until 2025. With these numbers and the fact that 50% of the Egyptian population is less than 30 years old, coupled with the fact that the country is paying a lot of attention to the SDGs, one of which is women empowerment, women employment, innovation. There is a huge amount of pressure right now to not just adopt these technologies, which as Paul very eloquently said, they're no longer disruptors. I mean, they're there, but to have them transform the economy. And a big part of that transformation is to embed it in key industries like agriculture, like like manufacturing. And AI is on the rise. We have all these like labs taking place and all these young people. And even in academia, we have a lot of private sector universities adopting these sciences, and they want to penetrate that realm and get into that space, because it doesn't just serve the youth, which is more than 50% of the population and supports the SDGs. They found that this is the recipe for the country to get more investment, to get more interest. Applications and companies like Paul's, the reason why they got into Egypt is because of this dynamic of this young population, of them eager to know more. And I was also again surprised. I always thought that education has a lot to do with it. And I know that we have a huge illiteracy rate in Egypt, which the country is currently working on. But despite of that, academics is not exactly tied up to this technology adoption. You don't have to be fully educated. You don't have to be a grad of university to be able to adopt these technologies. You just have to have a phone, understand the buttons, understand what's going on, and you know, the prerequisites have become so low, so minimal, so simple, and it became so mainstream. And as you said, the next step is AI, and it's not just in banking, and it's not just in tourism, but also in agriculture. And I want to draw the attention that in agriculture, there is this merge between agriculture and tourism, because we have what we call ecotourism. And in ecotourism, you're highlighting the community, and you're highlighting environmental friendly agriculture. And there are a lot of these villages taking place right now in Upper Egypt, where entrepreneurs and investors are keen on merging both industries, both tourism and agriculture, to create this mega product, eco-friendly villages. And we've worked with businesses on this idea. And as you said, AI would be something very crucial in making this magnify and amplify its impact.
Oh, I can totally see how passionate you are about talking about your ministry and tourism and everything Egypt. You are cut out for the work that you do. Paul, how do you see the role of digital payments and artificial intelligence evolving in the future of tourism, both in Egypt and across the Middle East, but more in general abroad, in terms of where do we see the actual use case?
Well, frankly, I think we're at the very beginning of the applications of artificial intelligence. Again, we're pretty much in that innovation phase, and some are showing up as more disruptive than others, but very few have actually transformed anything, frankly, at this point. So we have to get to that point. But I think in getting there, there's a lot to be said. And AI is a big word right now. I mean, it's big. It's big in the markets. It's big in the news. It's big everywhere. We're talking about it today. So it's big everywhere as a thing. But I'm not quite sure anyone knows how to actually make that thing matter as much as it ultimately will 10, 15, 20 years ago. Just like 20 years ago, we didn't have any idea how mobility or our mobile phones would actually impact our day, or how we would transform how we work with information through our phones. So I think it's that kind of a thing. So that said, it's not a big thing. It actually comes down to the individual. And it's spot on to say that, look, you don't have to have financial literacy is one thing. I have a degree of financial literacy. We all do have different degrees of financial literacy. Some of us understand financial literacy at levels that people will never want or need to. So it really comes down to what you need. And as a consumer with a mobile app on your phone, you don't need to understand derivatives and overlays and markets and arbitrage and spreads and FX and all that. The technology should give you the benefit of all of that working in your favor. And it's all you need to do is have a degree of financial literacy that allows you to use it and understand it at a basic level, so it makes your life better. And that's really the key to the whole thing. So from an AI perspective, I think the first AI driven technologies in fintech that are going to really, really matter are in the customer service and the customer relationship. I think it's at the experiential level, the experience that individual person has.
And of course, data breaches too, I would assume that they'll be able to track that much better.
AI, yeah, and they're already doing that. Chainalysis, we have the integration with Chainalysis. Chainalysis does that in the crypto space. But yes, digital payments, all of that. It's just a matter of fact, I think, that when you can create an artificial intelligence platform that makes your customer service better, makes your IT department smarter, your customer service department more effective. And it's not getting rid of the people. It's not displacing the people. It's more effectively deploying them for better solutions for the consumer.
Interesting. Yeah. It's funny you said that. I interviewed Chris Mattmann yesterday, and he is NASA's Chief Innovation Technology Officer. And we were talking about, the tons of applications and use cases, especially of AI. It was mainly about robotics. But when we talked about data, interestingly enough, he had a 23-year career inventing the most downloadable software on the planet. He created a technology that powers all the data systems in the industry called TICA. And that's the digital babblefish. It's the key technology that solved the Panama Papers and won the Pulitzer Prize in journalism back in 2017. And of course, for those listening, again, I'm going to reiterate it, but the Panama Papers were 11.5 million leaked documents that were published in April of 2016. And the papers detail financial and attorney-client information for more than 250,000 offshore entities. But it was interesting when we talked about how AI can monitor the data access and usage patterns to identify these unusual patterns that may indicate these data breaches, and of course, alert these data managers. But when we started talking privacy, one of my questions, and I'd love to ask you this, is the potential misuse or unauthorized access to this data can result in significant breaches of privacy and personal security, because at that point, AI systems often rely on collecting and analyzing vast amounts of personal data, which raises concerns about privacy. So I was like, well, where are we headed there? And I think that's a valid concern.
Yeah, I mean, insurance companies have been doing this for a long time. Banks have been doing this for a long time. People think when they apply for a loan or they apply for insurance that it's all just on the application they fill out. Somebody looks at it and says, "Okay, here's your loan, here's your insurance." There are database, there are systems that all of that is run against. Abstracts can be pulled from the U.S. from the IRS. You can pull an abstract and get an abstract of anybody's tax return that's trying to apply for something. I mean, these are the kinds of things that are already being done in an automated way, and there are already 20 years of machine learning technologies behind a lot of this, that what we're now calling artificial intelligence. So it's not that it's just somebody just plopped it down and said, "Oh, now we have this thing called AI." Yeah, I mean, that's not how it's been. It's really been a series of things over the last 50 years that have been evolving really since the end of World War II. If one were to go back and study it, you'll find that. And this is this thing we call now artificial intelligence. It's AI is only 2 letters, but it's a really big discussion. So I think you're right. I think he's spot on with that. And I mean, certainly security is a big deal. And I think that's going to also drive policy too, because I mean, look at PCI policy, DS3 policies in Europe, and PCI requirements, level 1, 2, 3 in the United States. When you look at all of that, you say, well, geez, now what are the governments going to do as far as security related to AI applications having access to a particular data set? How's that going to be treated?
Yeah, that's a whole different segment.
It's a big conversation.
It's a big conversation. Yes. Well, you are our regular contributor, Paul, so we will be having more of these conversations. And now that we've gotten acclimated with the beautiful and the talented Lamia, we'll be using her often as well for our foreign exchange interviews. Why not? All right. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Lamia. It was a pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure, Zen.
Thank you. It's our pleasure. It's always amazing. You have this great energy, and you know how to integrate things really well between technology and tourism. And I think this is what the world really needs: this kind of engagement, this kind of dialogues, and mixing industries together and coming up with this big picture where everybody has a role. So
yes, edutainment is extremely important. Thank you so much, friends. Guys, listen, travel is being made really easy and safely at the forefront of the governments ensuring that people want to come to Egypt, and they've taken numerous measures to stimulate the sector. And they've taken tons and tons of steps to make sure that everyone is comfy and everyone is happy when they visit Egypt. I have tons of friends there. The Ministry of Transport also launched in September, like I said earlier, its first ever online platform to regulate the entry of yacht trips. And I know a lot of you listening out there have yachts and mega yachts. A lot of my friends are asking these questions. So yes, they have a newly developed strategy to leverage the country's unique strategic location and their beautiful coastal lines. Definitely check out CCP Plus News on the gram, Flair Magazine, EG, Flair Magazine Egypt, and you can go directly to cc-plus.com, or you could head to OGPay.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV.
Hi, this is Kathy Ireland here on A Moment of Zen, brought to you by Your Home TV. We've developed an all-inclusive subscription-free network that you're going to love, whether it's financial freedom, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, wonderful weddings, travel and culture, cooking, entertainment, and short-form documentaries, programming for everyone. Classic films and new shows, including Kathy Ireland Presents American Dreams. We've developed this network just for you. Please check out yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio.
Hey guys, this is Celebrity Chef Jonathan Cinto right here on A Moment of Zen on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. Welcome to the Culinary and Wine segment brought to you by Bice Cucina. In today's mini segment, we're going to be making a filet mignon cheddar crunch tacos with a spicy mango coleslaw. All right, we are going to get our grill nice and hot now. I am using Brandman grills. This is an amazing Kamel here. This thing, it was going to be a game changer, but we're going to be using a really cool product, okay? This is from Barrel Proof. This is authentic Kentucky bourbon barrel chips, all right? We only have to take a few of them, get that nice sweet and smoky flavor. Oh my God, I smell the bourbon right here. You can definitely smell how authentic it is. So we are gonna be making our steak very soon. Get the grill nice and piping hot, about 300. I'll be right back. All right, we're gonna start on the spicy mango coleslaw. I'm using a really, really great tasting hot sauce, okay? This is Canales. This right here is their mango hot sauce. It's got pink Himalayan sea salt, garlic powder, curry. It's got onion. It's got habanero. It's got mango, real mango fruit, okay? You don't hear that too often. And it's also got some jalapenos. So we're gonna have some fun with this. And we're gonna get, as you see, it's chunky, so we gotta get it coming out. And we're gonna probably put about a good 8 tablespoons or so. We have the typical coleslaw mix, right? Throw that right in there. You can get that at any supermarket. So we'll throw that in there. It's about 2 cups right there. I got this from Chef Mandela. This is white balsamic vinegar straight from Italy. This is really good stuff. So we're gonna give that about 3 tablespoons. And as you can see, okay? And then we're gonna use a half a cup of mayonnaise. I don't like my coleslaw too mayonnaise-y. Some people like it that way. I like mine a little bit more acidic. And since we're using the mango hot sauce and also the balsamic vinegar, we got that nice happy medium, a little sweet, a little sour. Love that umami flavor, right? That's what we want. So get that mayo in there, and that's about a half a cup. We don't need any of the salt or any of the peppers because that's in the hot sauce itself. Mix this all up, and we're gonna use this later to serve on our tacos. So you can see our coleslaw, exactly what I was looking for. It's got a nice, really nice balance. All right, we're gonna get our steak seasoned up and ready to go and hit it on the grill. I'm using Marble 57. This is certified Wagyu beef. This stuff is amazing. And this is their fillets. Look how cool this packaging is, right? Nice and easy to use. Just pop it right open, and it's got it right in the vacuum sealed package. So we're gonna get our steaks seasoned right now. I am using Howdy Partner barbecue rub from Nashville Spice Company. Oh man, yeah, we want to definitely season this heavy. And I'm not putting any olive oil or anything like that on this time because we want to smoke the steaks. But I want to cover this. Like, don't be shy. Use that. If you have to use the whole bottle, you can always buy another one, right? This is the beautiful filet mignon I was telling you about earlier. I was not kidding when I said go heavy on the seasoning, all right? So this is what it looks like. This stuff is so tender. I'm ready to eat it now, a little tartare style. All right, let's get this steak on the grill. Put it a little bit on direct heat right over here. I just want to get that sear. And then once we get that sear going, we'll move it and make it not on the direct heat. Close the lid. And let's make some magic. Wow, look at, whew, the smell is unbelievable. Let's look at one of these steaks. Oh, that's exactly what I was looking for. Those beautiful sear marks like that. And now we're gonna take it directly off the heat so it cooks a little bit more. Not even, you can see it's still a little tender. That's exactly what I'm looking for, that medium rarish. I'm gonna hit it for maybe another minute, get those flavors absorbing back in there, because I love that Kentucky bourbon. Those chips in there, you can smell it. All my neighbors are probably losing their mind right now. We'll be right back because we're gonna cut the steak open. Let's cut this beautiful filet open. Oh, that's exactly what we were looking for. Look at that. That is the perfect pink scent that I wanted. We'll cut them into about 1-inch strips. Look at that. Oh my God. That's incredible. All right, we're gonna cut this up for the taco. Now we're gonna get the pan going on the grill, and we're gonna take some cheddar cheese. Beautiful cheddar like that. This is about 1.5 cups. And we're going to make a taco shell out of it. So we're gonna spread this out, and we want a big one, so that's why we're using a lot of cheese like that. So the outside is gonna be nice and crunchy. The inside is gonna be that cheesiness that we like. I'll be right back once the taco's ready. Let's plate this. Look at this. This is how the taco shell came out. You can see crispy on the outside. Look at that. That's the color we're looking for. Incredible. We're gonna start plating our cheddar crunch taco shell. So we're gonna get that spicy slaw that we made. I'm gonna put that on the bottom. Nice heaping portion of that. Oh my God, this looks insane. I am starving. And then we're gonna throw some of that meat in there. Whew. This looks incredible. Hit it with some nice acidity. Hit it with a lime. Look at this beauty. That is a taco that probably you'll be eating double and triple of these amazing ones, right? So real simple. Plate it, serve it with a beautiful bottle of Rose Pinoir over here. This stuff here is from Castle Rock. We're gonna get those nice fruity light notes. Oh, look at that. That's a beauty right there. Cheers to everybody. Enjoy your summer. I'll see you real soon. Thanks for tuning in and watching. This is Chef Jonathan Cinto on A Moment of Zen, 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. That was our culinary and wine segment brought to you by Bice Cucina. Back to you, Zen.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV.
Hi, this is Kathy Ireland here on A Moment of Zen, brought to you by Your Home TV. We've developed an all-inclusive subscription-free network that you're going to love, whether it's financial freedom, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, wonderful weddings, travel and culture, cooking, entertainment, and short-form documentaries, programming for everyone. Classic films and new shows, including Kathy Ireland Presents American Dreams. We've developed this network just for you. Please check out yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you could head to 710WOR.iHeart.com/A Moment of Zen. And also remember that we're live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's right. You can watch the whole thing unfold on YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are now streaming on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV. That's free programming to you. It's a brand new streaming platform. They've just recently hit 10 million views. You could head directly to our platform at mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.